All right, students, I told you that we would offer an opportunity to review some of the concepts of integers. So here are some of the concepts to integers reviewed. First of all, we have positive and negative numbers. Positive and negative numbers. And it all starts with the number line. So if I was to draw a number line, sorry, it's not very straight. I should use my line tool. But if I was to draw a number line, in the center is 0. And as I move to the right, I have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. All of these are positive numbers. They're greater than 0. As I move this way, I have the negative numbers. So as I move to the left, I have the negative numbers. -1, -2, -3, -4, so on and so forth, all the way down. So the difference between positive and negative is that positive is greater than 0 and negative is less than 0. What we're working on today is adding and subtracting those positive and negative numbers. So before, when you were young, you learned how to add 2 plus 3. And what did this mean? It meant that you had two quantities, 1, 2, and you were going to add 3 more quantities. And so you got a total of 5. One way we could look at that is saying, okay, I started with nothing, they gave me 2, and then they gave me 3 more, and it brought me up to a total of 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. Later on, we learned how to subtract. And we learned how to say, okay, now I have 6 items, and I'm going to take away 3. Well, what does that mean? That means I have 6 items here, and instead of putting more on, like adding 3 more, in this case, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to take away 3. And I was left with 3. So when I was left with 3, that was my answer. And that was pretty easy to figure out. 3. And again, we can do that on a number line. I was started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I started up here at 6. And then they took away 3. So they went back 3. 1, 2, 3. Which left me here at this number, a 3. Now what happens is we get into middle school and we start dealing with numbers that don't necessarily make sense. And what I mean by that is we start asking you questions that say, okay, you have 5 things and I'm going to take 7 away. And you say, wait a second, if I only have 5, how can you possibly take 7 away? Well, let's start with our number line here. I'm going to clean it up a little bit before we go on, so we can kind of follow through a little bit easier here. And I'm going to go back up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to start up here at 7. Now I'm going to take away 5, so I'm going to go back 5. Oh, I did that backwards. I apologize. We started with 5. So we start with 5. I apologize. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we take away 7, so we're going to go back 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, we end up in these negative numbers, -2. What we need to learn is an efficient way to do this. We can't always rely on this number line. It's great to think about it in our heads, to think about, okay, am I going up, am I going down, am I going to end up in the negatives or not? But if I gave you a problem of 25 minus 36, putting this out on the number line is not the most efficient way to do that, because I'm going to count all the way up and come all the way back, and that's just going to take a lot of extra time, especially if your teacher assigns 20 to 30 problems a night. So let's look at a more efficient way to solve this. Let me give you a problem. I'm going to give you a problem of 15 minus 21. So there's a few ways to do this. We can think about a thermometer. We can think about the number line just like we did before. When we originally taught about it in class, I talked about tug of war. However you want to talk about it or think about it. One of the other things we also stated is that it's easiest to take any problem that's subtraction and turn it to addition. And so I do that by tick-tock, or however you want to remember that. But if I turn this to addition, I make that subtraction. So what I can think about on a thermometer is that I start at 0, I go up 15, and come back down 21. Well, what I have to know is that I'm going to have more negatives. Same thing on the number line. I like to think about it in tug of war because it's easier for me to think about people. And I know that this 15, if I circle the sign in front of it, if I don't see one, I know it's positive. I know that there are 15 people on the positive team. There are 21 people on the negative team. Okay, so who's going to win? Who has more players on their team? Well, the negative team has more players. So I know the negatives are going to win because they have more players. Now, to find out how many more they have, I can just do a simple subtraction. 21 minus 15 is 6. So negative 6 would be my answer for that problem. How about this one? 15 minus 16. This one's a little bit easier to visualize. Again, I want to change this plus a negative. Now, I have 15 people on the positive team still and 16 people on the negative team. Who's going to win? Well, the negative team still has more players. How many more players do they have? They have one extra player. So the answer is -1. Let's look at 20 minus 15. Well, Miss Bednar, I can do this problem. This is just like in elementary school. That is great. Let's think about it. I can still do my tick-tock here, plus a negative. This 20 is on the positive team. This 15 is on the negative team. Well, who has more players? The positives do. 20 is more than 15. Positive players have more. How many more do they have? Well, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 5 more players to get up to 20. So a positive 20 minus a 15 that we turned into plus a negative would give me an answer of a positive 5, which is probably what you got before you even did this, because again, this is a problem like you used to do. So let's look at some of these problems that we have that have maybe the double negative in there. Let's say we have 10 minus -2. Well, just like before, we want to change all these negative signs over to positive signs. And when I do that, I also have to change the sign of this value here. If it's negative, make it positive. If it's positive, make it negative. Well, now this one's pretty easy. What team is the 10 on? They're on the positive team. What team is the 2 on? They're on the positive team. So I have 10 people on the positive team plus 2 more people on the positive team. It's a total of 12 people. How about -15 minus -6? I have, in this case, same thing. Let's change this sign and this sign. All right. Now I have 15 people on the negative team, 6 people on the positive team. There are more people on the negative team, so negative team wins. How many more? Well, I could just subtract and get 9, or I could count up. But either way, I'm going to find an answer of 9. -15 plus a 6 is 9. What if I have -36 minus a -39? Let's look at a problem like this. Again, I'm going to change this sign, plus negative. And when I change these negative signs, or if I change that one, I have to change this one. Now, what team is this on? They are on the negative team. And what team are they on? They are on the positive team. So 36 on the negative team, 39 on the positive team. Who has more players? Well, the positive team has more players. So the positive team is going to win by 3 extras. And again, we can figure that out by counting up or just subtracting. 39 minus 36 is 3. Let's just keep trying a few more, see if you kind of figure out what's going on here. 27 minus 54. Again, change the sign, plus a negative, tick-tock. 27 people on the positive team, 54 people on the negative team. Who has more players? 54 negatives, 27 positives. Well, the negatives obviously have more players. So then all I do is subtract 54 minus 27. It'd be 14. 3, oh, 3, holy cow, 4. 4 minus 2 is 2, 14 minus 7, oh, 27, there we go. Negative 27. Negative team won by 27 more players. Negative 5 minus negative 6. Negative 5 minus negative 6. Change this to adding. If I change that, I also have to change this one. How many players do they have? 5 negative players. How many players do they have? 6 positive players. Who has more players, the positive team or the negative team? Well, the positive team does, of course. 6 people is more than 5, and they have more by 1. I hope this helps bring back a little bit of how to work with your positive and negatives. And if you have questions, you can either ask me when you see me in class again, or I would go to khanacademy.com, and within his site, search integers, maybe even just adding integers, because that is what we're working with the most in this chapter. And there'll be another video there. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.